See a few people down there. It's really pretty calm at Myrtle Beach on the Grand Strand. Skies are overcast there, getting a little bit of a breeze, but no major problems at the moment. Obviously, later on, we can see some major problems. The very latest, Hurricane Dorian winds 105 miles per hour, gust to 125, starting that move to the north-northwest at about 8 miles per hour. Expected to turn more to the north, and then later tomorrow turns off to the northeast. This is the track. This is around 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. That's winds at 105 miles per hour just to the east of Savannah, Georgia. By 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, just to the east of Beaufort, South Carolina. Still a Category 2 hurricane. And then early on Friday morning, about 2 a.m., that's sustained winds of 90 miles per hour, Category 1 hurricane off the coastal sections of Wilmington. Notice the cone takes it a little bit inland. So there's still the potential for landfall somewhere in North Carolina. That could maybe include close to Jacksonville, North Carolina, Morehead City, and especially the Outer Banks as they jut far out into the Atlantic Ocean. These are the computer models, some indicating more out towards the Atlantic Ocean, yet others, I think, if you follow the National Hurricane Center, their track takes it right there, just edging along the Carolina coastline, which is really not good. Doesn't mean that they're going to have a hurricane, but it does mean there will be tropical storm force winds. In fact, some of those winds right now extend out about 175 miles from the center of circulation. 170 miles out, you can see right there. It's almost due east of Daytona Beach, Florida, center of circulation. They're getting tropical storm force winds, so there could be a lot of major damage inland into Florida even this morning. So you have the surf, heavy surf, you have the storm surge, and the amount of rainfall they could get anywhere from maybe 5 to 8 inches of rain. We show you right now, starting to get some of those feeder bands just to the south of Charleston, South Carolina, starting to move into areas around Jacksonville, right around Tybee Island there, around Savannah, Georgia, starting to get some storm activity there. The most intense storms right now are still out into the Atlantic Ocean. We have hurricane warnings in effect from Savannah all the way to Charleston to Myrtle Beach along the Grand Strand, extending right into areas around Oak Island, the south-facing beaches of North Carolina, up towards areas around Carolina Beach, Rifle Beach, and Wilmington. Then at the moment, there's a hurricane watch in effect for the Outer Banks. I do want to point out that you can see this area just to the east of Wilmington, over towards areas around Laurinburg, over towards Scotland County, extending all the way down towards Orangeburg in South Carolina. That is a tropical storm warning. That means winds 58 to about 70 miles per hour. That's sustained winds. That can do a lot of damage. There's a lot of concern, and that's just south and just southeast of the Charlotte metro area for the potential for tropical storm winds there. And then we have, once again, anywhere from Tarboro all the way down to Fable. That's a tropical storm watch in effect there. That actually could be extended into warning for tomorrow. If we have any questions?
Yeah, I mean, in the last couple of days, we saw the spaghetti models kind of with the showing the track could be a lot of different ways. And now they're kind of coming together. So are you pretty confident in the track it's at right now? I
think the National Hurricane Center has, you know, they have a pretty decent idea about the track of that. And they would take it pretty much paralleling the coastal sections of north of South Carolina from Charleston to Myrtle Beach. And then it starts to take more of a turn to the north. What's interesting about the way geographically the state of North Carolina is you can see the Outer Banks jut way out into the Atlantic Ocean. So if you could have a storm that tracks along the coastal sections, not making landfall, but notice how close it gets to Cape Hatteras. And that's why there's a potential for maybe even Cape Hatteras having some landfall, maybe sometime tomorrow afternoon.
You talked about on the show that Charlotte could just see some rain, possibly some gusts of wind. People are asking Mint Hill. So just talk about the effects closer to this area.
Yeah, let's talk about the rainfall potential. Then we'll talk about the winds. Heavy rain along the coastal sections, 7 to over 10 inches of rain. There's a lot of concern really about Charleston, South Carolina, the amount of rainfall that they could get. If you look at the key up there, that's over 10 inches of rain. So in Charleston, it can rain a couple inches and you have extreme flooding. If you're getting up to 10 inches of rainfall, that is a major catastrophe for Charleston, South Carolina. In addition, the storm surge, 7 up to 10 feet. High tide, all that plays a part of what could happen there. Then you go farther inland from Columbia all the way up to just areas south of Raleigh, 4 to 6 inches. And for the Charlotte area, anywhere from 0 west of here to maybe up to 2 inches east of the Charlotte metro area. So here's our impacts in Charlotte, tracking Dorian locally. Thursday into Friday for the Charlotte metro area. And if you can draw a line, take a look at Interstate 77 east of there. So anywhere from Concord to Charlotte, Matthews, Mint Hill, Indian Trail, Monroe, Wadesboro, all the way to Albemarle. We could see winds gusting 30 to 45 miles per hour. So that really can cause some problems with those winds up to about 40 miles an hour. With some rain, the loosened soil, that could cause some damage from trees, tree limbs, even trees going down. So that, for folks who are asking questions locally, I think our main issue would be some of those gusty winds out there tomorrow.
Are you talking like Thursday night or?
Late Thursday afternoon and right into Friday, early Friday morning. So that would be the effect here.
Everyone always references Hugo. Somebody just mentioned this, how that track changed and devastated, more inland than expected.
This is a storm system that's not like Hugo. Hugo is just really pushed inland. It moved across Charleston and then headed on a beeline right up towards the Charlotte metro area. Here's what we're looking at as far as some of the rainfall. These are some Doppler estimates of rainfall totals. As you can see, Rockingham, almost 2 inches, over 2 at Cheraw, around the Raleigh area, almost 4 inches of rainfall there. Now, we have a storm surge warning in effect, and that includes all of South Carolina. That includes anywhere from Savannah, Georgia, to Hilton Head, Edisto Beach, Charleston, McClellanville, Garden City, all the way up to Myrtle Beach. And does include areas around Wilmington, Wrightsville Beach, Carolina Beach, and at the moment, storm surge watch. That'll probably be changed to a storm surge warning. That's 7 to 10 feet of water. So if you can imagine a tide coming in, and that tide is about 10 feet tall and doesn't stop at the beach, it goes inland. That can cause a lot of damage. More deaths occur from storm surge than anything else when we have these tropical storms and hurricanes.
Kat is asking when we get the next update on direction, but we just got one at 5 a.m.
Yeah,
the next one will be 11 a.m.
I mean, it's still moving north-northwest. It may shift a little bit over the next 24 hours, maybe a more northerly track, and then farther to the northeast later tomorrow into Friday. That would be the track.
Tiffany is asking, what about Southport? She said her brother and sister-in-law live there and they have to stay because of their jobs. She's a bit worried.
In that area, there is concern about Southport because you're going to get some, some tropical storm force winds there. In that area, that could be winds up to 58 to maybe 70 miles per hour. You can get some very heavy rainfall, maybe 5 inches of rainfall in that area. So a lot of concern in Southport. Now, this is winds 40 miles per hour at Wilmington all the way over towards Southport. That's 60% chance of that there. Then you get into areas from Hilton Head to Charleston, Myrtle Beach, likely that they're going to get winds over 40 miles per hour. That's tropical storm force winds. And then you go inland, a little bit less of a chance of that, but certainly anywhere from folks who live over towards areas around Cheraw, Chesterfield County in South Carolina, Marlborough County, all the way to the eastern part of say anywhere from, say, Richmond County all the way east. That's where there could be some problems with some very high winds, even tropical storm force winds there.
People have been asking about school closing, or is there any worry with the winds with buses in our area? I know a lot of, obviously, evacuations and schools closed closer to the coast. Yeah. But I haven't heard anything about CMS or any of those districts.
No, I mean, I think here locally, that's not a case here.
Yeah.
Now, once you get to the beach, obviously, from Wilmington to Myrtle Beach to Charleston, and you go inland all the way towards Florence, South Carolina, all the way up towards maybe around Laurinburg, up towards areas around Goldsboro, Kinston. There may be some schools affected by that, but nothing really here in the Charlotte metro area.
Yeah, somebody asking about South Gastonia. Will they be affected? I know you already touched on that area.
Yeah,
basically.
well, I mean, Gastonia, if you think of the Charlotte metro, when we talk about our area, we're going to get some, in the afternoon, we could get some showers, even a couple strong thunderstorms, and winds gusting 30 to up to 40 miles per hour. And that would include areas around South Gaston County, those areas. Mm-hmm.
That's a big storm.
It is a very big storm.
We saw some social media clips, because it was over Daytona Beach, or, just east of Daytona Beach around 6 a.m.
Yeah, there is right now. And that's the center of circulation. Hurricane force winds extend out 60 miles. Tropical storm force winds extend out 170 miles away from that center of circulation. So once again, tropical storm force winds anywhere from about 39 up to about 73 miles per hour. And that means sustained winds, constant winds. That can certainly cause a lot of damage. We compare some of the storms that we think about. Hurricane Matthew moved inland, tracked across areas pretty close to Charleston, then took that turn up towards Wilmington. So this is a storm not like that. Although, you know, you could almost compare it right here. There may be some comparison. Didn't go as far inland, but I think once you get up towards Wilmington, that area, maybe a slight comparison. Certainly didn't come into the Charlotte metro area. Floyd was a major hurricane as far as flooding, and that took a more easterly track, but it did go inland up towards areas around Elizabeth City. And then here's the Dorian forecast taking that turn. As you can see, this is the National Hurricane Center indicating really close to the South Carolina coastline, close to areas around Myrtle Beach, then pretty close to Wilmington. Doesn't take very much to change that course. Just a few miles could push it inland, making landfall in the Carolinas.
Brandy was just asking about the speed, and this actually had me thinking because it stalled over the Bahamas basically when it was over land, and then once it started moving again over the Atlantic, will it stall again if it gets closer to land?
Well, I think it's still going to continue, may even pick up a little bit of speed.
Okay.
Now, once it gets inland, if it does go inland, then that could change the path.
Right.
But as long as it's in the Atlantic Ocean, the steering currents will take that and speed up the movement. Some headlines, things we need to know. Little to no impacts in the Charlotte area. The impacts, I mentioned this a minute ago, I think really would be some very gusty winds. And if you want to talk about areas that we're concerned with, that would be Rockingham, Wadesboro, Monroe, all the way down towards areas in Chesterfield County, Pageland, Schrock, Chesterfield, all the way to Albemarle, up around areas from Concord to Charlotte, Monroe, Matthews, Mint Hill. Those areas east of Interstate 77 could get some winds gusting up to maybe about 45 miles per hour for tomorrow afternoon. High impacts on the Carolina coastline, winds 50 to 70 miles per hour along the Carolina coastline, and that means sustained winds, constant winds. High storm surge 4 to 7 feet along the Carolina coastline. Some areas near Charleston could get a storm surge of 10 feet. And as low-lying area as Charleston is, that could cause some major problems. It floods so easily there. That could cause some really catastrophic situations in that part of South Carolina. Carolina landfall is still possible.
Just another minute or two before we hop off here. A couple more questions. One person asking, are you worried at all about Jacksonville?
Jacksonville, Florida, or Jacksonville, North Carolina?
Oh, they didn't say.
Well, Jacksonville, Florida, concerned about that because the rivers, all the water that goes in there, the storm surge. Jacksonville, Florida, because of its low elevation and the amount of, with the river going through there, and the storm surge, they could get some flooding in downtown Jacksonville. So yeah, there is concern about Jacksonville, Florida, concern about Jacksonville, North Carolina. They could get winds, sustained winds up to maybe 70 miles per hour there. They could get anywhere from about 7 to 10 inches of rainfall in Jacksonville, North Carolina.
A lot of people thanking you, Larry, for all this information.
You're very welcome.
One more question. We are 145 miles from the coast, David says. Should they be concerned?
So
145 miles from the coast.
No, 145 miles but you think about tropical storm force winds. It depends upon where they are.
Yeah, I know.
But let's just say that you were, let's just say you were 145 miles and the hurricane was off Myrtle Beach, and the tropical storm force winds extend out 170 miles. You're going to have tropical storm force winds there.
Right.
So that's a good question, and could be an issue for people that live that close. It doesn't sound like it's close to the Carolina coastline, but if we still have tropical storm force winds over 170 miles out, that could cause problems. And that's why they have that tropical storm warning in effect all the way inland to areas around Florence, South Carolina, Orangeburg, all the way up to areas around Laurinburg and over towards Scotland County in that part of the state right there.
Well, at the end of the day, we're grateful we're not going to see what the Bahamas saw.
Oh, it's so terrible. One thing about the Bahamas, just to kind of compare, if you think about 24 hours of just nonstop, imagine a tornado that goes 24 hours in one spot. That's what it's like. That's why there's so much devastation. A lot of prayers for those folks, and we can do anything to help out. We need to do that because some of those areas are totally devastated. We'll keep you updated right here, and more coming up on NBC Charlotte at 12 noon. Have a nice day.